Well, good evening once again. Day 122 of the Biden administration, which ends this week having survived its first major foreign policy crisis. Tonight, the ceasefire that ended 11 days of back and forth fighting between Israel and Hamas militants has now been in effect for just over 24 hours. It appears to be holding. The challenge now, of course, to prevent skirmishes with police like the one that erupted today out in the open in Jerusalem and keep them from escalating and getting any larger. The president has credited quiet, intense diplomacy for bringing about the truce. And late today, as he hosted South Korea's leader at the White House, he suggested this would be indeed his strategy going forward.
One of the reasons why we're able to get the ceasefire in 11 days, they didn't do what other people have done. I don't talk about what I tell people in private. I don't talk about what we negotiate in private.
President added the U.S. was committed to Israel's security, but he noted there was really only one way to guarantee a lasting peace in the region.
We still need a two-state solution. It is the only answer. We renewed the security commitment as well as economic commitment to the people on the West Bank. I also indicated to the Israelis that I thought it was very important that they stop in Jerusalem this intercommunal fighting that is by extremes on both sides. Until the region says unequivocally they acknowledge the right of Israel to exist as an independent Jewish state, there will be no peace.
NBC News has new reporting tonight on the president's handling of this crisis with Israel and on his main objective. Quote, his approach was stylistically muted, substantively more hard line than some of his allies had expected. It was driven by a singular goal to end the violence as soon as possible so he could train his focus back onto his domestic agenda. Meanwhile, the 11-day conflict in Israel comes with an ugly after effect, a rise in attacks on Jews in our country and around the globe. Data from the Anti-Defamation League also noted an increase in hate speech on social media, and there are new calls from the administration for the administration to address this growing wave of anti-Semitism. Earlier on this network, the head of the Anti-Defamation League spoke out about the recent attacks.
I do feel scared, and I've heard from Jewish people all over the country in the past week who are alarmed. From college campuses to La Cienega Boulevard in Los Angeles, people are feeling under assault. It's like a Charlottesville every day.
Your opinion on how the president did this navigating overseas? Is the hard part indeed to come? And things have changed vis-a-vis U.S. and Israel.
Yes, Brian, it's good to see you again. It's been a long time. I think he handled it admirably. I mean, it's a sign of what the Biden-Blinken form of diplomacy is: deliberate, cautious, saying what you mean, talking behind the scenes. One of the things that people haven't talked about is Biden's relationship with Bibi. It's not a state secret that I'm revealing when I say that Barack Obama and Bibi Netanyahu didn't have a love affair. Biden has purchased with Bibi because he supported him for 30 years. And when he says to Bibi, look, you've got to cut this out, Bibi knows he has to do that. That really wasn't the case with President Obama. And I'm so glad and relieved that President Biden mentioned the two-state solution. You know, the Trump administration played a kind of three-card Monte game with the two-state solution and kind of pretended it didn't exist. But Biden said, look, this is the only answer. You know, to paraphrase Winston Churchill, the two-state solution is the worst solution of all, except for all the others. There really isn't any alternative. And it's getting harder year by year. It's harder because the PLO and Hamas don't get along, and they're two separate places. So you have to make a deal with two people. Hamas was probably strengthened by what just happened over the last 10 or 11 days. So to your last part of your question, now begins the hard part.
And Susan, from your perch, coming off the comments we just heard from Rick, how did they do at balancing agendas, walking and chewing gum, foreign and domestic, in the course of the same 11 days?
You know, I think the White House is finding what previous presidents have also discovered, which it is very hard to set your priorities and keep your eye on them because things keep happening that demand your attention. This White House does not want to adopt as its goal a permanent solution to the problems in the Middle East. I think they see that as not realistic, but it is not an issue they can ignore, which is one thing that was clear with the president's actions in trying to stem the violence that we saw there. Their preference is to get back to issues that involve the pandemic and the U.S. economy. And for their foreign policy agenda, they're much more concerned about China, for instance, than they are about getting enmeshed in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So I think they're pleased. You saw the president giving himself a little pat on the back about the behind-the-scenes diplomacy that helped achieve this ceasefire. But this is a problem they hope they can tamp down and turn to other problems that they are more concerned about and where they think they have a bigger chance of actually succeeding.